Hi witches! So we are once again back in my bedroom. I actually filmed this like half of this video in my studio, and then the people who are painting the outside of my house like got here and it's now super loud. So if you hear a lot of stuff happening, I am super sorry. I have no control over this. My landlord did not tell me people were coming to paint until the day they got here. So I want to start this video off by giving a super huge shout out to a bunch of the new patrons who joined my Patreon. Oh my gosh! You guys seriously like make it possible for me to like continue to do this and like have this be my livelihood. So thank you guys literally from. So I want to give a super special shout out to Robin, Caitlin, Joseph, Fair, and I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong, and Cherry or Sherry, I wasn't quite sure, but thank you guys so much for becoming patrons. I'm so blessed, oh my gosh. So if you were able to join me for the full moon, thank you guys so much for being there, even if you caught it in the replay, love that. And I'll see you guys in about 2 weeks for our new moon circle, which is going to be a little bit different, and I think is going to be really entertaining and interesting for people. So today, however, we are going to be talking a little bit more about, as you guys can tell probably from the title, honoring bones, working with bones in your practice. And this topic was actually recommended to me by, or suggested to me, I guess I should say, by one of my Instagram followers, Emmers the Witch, so just be sure to go give them a follow. Actually, their wife actually drew my profile picture, and she is a super talented artist, and it was amazing. So just all the love, all of the things. If you guys don't know, I did put out like a little poll a couple weeks ago, just like asking people like what they want me to talk about, because I feel like I talk about a lot of the stuff that like I know about and like to talk about. But there are so many topics in witchcraft out there that I want to be sure that I am making content that people are interested in, obviously. So if you ever have any suggestions, feel free to leave them on any of my videos. I do try to read the comments. I am reading stuff even if I am not replying. Everything has just been crazy for the past 2 weeks, so I'm going to spend some time this week. Anyways, enough about that. Let's get on to the topic at hand, and that is bones, honoring bones in your practice. So every culture has a very specific way that they confront death and honor the dead. But there are some notable examples, some of which I've actually experienced, that really are centered around honoring the bones of people. Now, when I was in college, I got the opportunity to study abroad in Europe. And when I was in Rome, I was able to go to this really, really cool like crypt. It's a little bit off the beaten path, but it's called the Capuchin crypt, or it's kind of like a whole chapel basically, but it really reminded me a lot of the catacombs in Paris. There were all of these really beautiful, intricate, and decorative designs made out of actual human remains, which I thought might have been morbid to some people. I can totally see that, but I think it really just shows like the honor and the care that goes into arranging these bones in beautiful ways. And it's actually really seen as like a high honor to be able to have your bones put into this crypt. Staying with Christianity here, we also have this really big focus, especially in Catholicism, about honoring the bones of saints. These are often called relics. And people will actually go on journeys to see specific relics or bones of Catholic saints. And it's often said that these bones have some sort of supernatural power. Maybe that is healing or granting miracles, whatever it might be. But yeah, we see this history of pilgrimages to these various sites where the bones are held. And this happened for hundreds of years, especially in the Middle Ages. So I just think that is actually really interesting. It's not something that I really think about when I think about Christianity. Like this kind of like exaltation of like bones and remains. It's definitely like very much not that in my mind, but it is I think good to touch on that and just bring it to light, because I feel like a lot of people don't know about it. Now, going in a different direction, I really wanted to talk about an ancient pre-Christian tradition called Hanaupicchan, and that is a Mayan tradition, so South America. This is a holiday that is similar to Day of the Dead. It was definitely syncretized into Day of the Dead, so that actually has a lot more like Christian ideology or symbology in it. However, the holiday itself, the name means food for the souls, and this is a time during which the dead are exhumed after 3 years of burial, so that way all of their skin has kind of gone away. No nasty surprises, that would be awful. They are respectfully exhumed, washed, and displayed, often in wooden boxes lined with different types of cloth, and they're often given offerings of fresh flowers and candles. So it's just really a time where people kind of come together to remember and take care of and show respect to their ancestors, to those people who have passed on, by, preserving their bones. And finally, this is kind of something that I just thought was really interesting and maybe something people would be interested in. This is kind of a secular example of human beings kind of like exalting exalting or being interested in like human remains or bones, I guess. But at the Muter Museum in Philadelphia, it's amazing. First of all, if you ever get the chance to make a trip, I really recommend it. I went actually at the beginning of 2020, and they were doing, oh my gosh, they were doing a exhibit on the Spanish flu, and I have like a picture that says "Spit spreads death," and it is so haunting knowing that only like literally like 3 weeks later we were all unlocked. It was crazy, but they have this amazing like wall of all these human skulls and stuff, which sounds really morbid, I know, but it is actually fascinating because they have traced back kind of like the I guess carbon dated like the skulls, figured out approximately where they would have been from, and also the cause of death. So it's very fascinating, but I see this as kind of like a way that these people are remembered. They have skulls from all over the world. I saw one from like ancient Rome. There was one from like South America, and they're all very different. And you can definitely like, as you're looking at them, kind of almost picture the features of the people who like these skulls belong to. So even though that's kind of like a secular thing, I also see this as kind of like an exaltation, a remembrance, and kind of a respectful way to display these objects. Now, moving beyond some personal examples, in witchcraft, bones can be used in so many different ways. I know I made a video back in February showing about like how I kind of use bones, but you can use them in so many ways in your practice, and that's kind of what the whole point of this video is. Now, the main way that I see people using them is kind of to call on the spirit of the animal that this bone might belong to. So I have one, for example, here. If you guys don't want to see bones, look away now, but this is a very old skull that I have. It's been with me since the beginning of my practice. So this is one that I actually decorated. I did all of that when I was like 14 years old, and I actually had it hanging on like a plaque. It was really cool. But there is a belief that the spirit who is attached to this, or the general spirit, like the deer spirit, can be represented in your practice by bones that might come from that animal. Now, this specifically I use to decorate my altar for the horned god. So I did kind of what I usually do for plant spirits, or if you want to watch my video about home guardians, a very similar approach, but just getting permission and, you know, exalting my bones before asking them. In this case, I just asked if I could, you know, decorate and use this skull as a representation of the horned god, for which I got a positive response, and we've been working together ever since. Some people use these to really connect with like the overall like spirit, like the deer spirit or the crow spirit or the snake spirit, whatever that like universal archetype might be, and that is perfectly fine as well. It doesn't have to be the exact spirit of the deer, like that specific deer. It can be kind of used as a focus object for calling in the energy of sex. Now, before you start working with maybe some animal spirits, again, I really recommend doing your research on it, learning the stories, myths, kind of traits of the animals that you are trying to connect with. And it's just a really nice way that you can bring in the energy of these animals to your altar or sacred space. I do this by honoring and taking care of their bones, but I find that they could probably be incorporated into your practice the same way you would maybe a plant spirit. So to sum that bullet point up, because I know I kind of talked in circles there for a second, bones that belong to a specific animal can be brought into your sacred space for your altar in order to bring that energy of that animal into whatever working you might be doing, or into your sacred space in general. Bones can also be used as tools within your witchcraft. So if you're not necessarily looking to connect with the spirit, but really enjoy having kind of natural items in your practice, consider using bones or maybe antlers, shells, as ritual tools instead of going out and buying them for yourself. So you can use them as maybe a wand or an athame perhaps. They can also be used as ritual tools, which I think is where we see a lot of people focusing their practice with bones, which is awesome. Osteomancy is not something that I necessarily do, so I don't know like a whole lot about it. I'm sure that there are other people out there who can tell you all about their osteomancy practice, and if that is something that you do, I would love to hear about it. I just like personally am not called to practice that. I know that seems weird. Like I feel like I, of all people, should be that person, but I'm not. Okay, so what is osteomancy? Osteomancy is the act of divining the future through interpretation of bones that have been thrown onto like some sort of cloth, usually. You might also hear this called throwing bones. That might be something that a term that you might have heard before. There is evidence of bone divination in Japan, Korea, Northern Africa, the Middle East, Europe, Serbia, like it's all over the world. People have been doing this for a very long time. In Africa and Asia specifically, diviners would often put those materials, those bones or other items in a basket, shake them and toss them onto a mat or within a circle. The more common form of osteomancy that modern practitioners use involves tossing sets of bones, shells, rocks, other trinkets that they might have, and they'll like throw these items onto a cloth and use those items to divine an answer to a question that they might have asked. Depending on where these bones or objects land in either in the circle or on whatever reading cloth the osteomancer might have, they'll analyze the position of the objects as well as the meanings behind the objects. So for example, if one bone is corresponding with love and the other bone is corresponding with luck, you might, and they're like right next to each other, you will probably see good luck and love, if that makes sense. Now, modern osteomancy kits often include keys, rocks, shells, acorns, dice, little trinkets and stuff like that alongside of bones. However, some people have just strictly bones. Generally speaking, the diviner ascribes meanings to each item, like I said, and in certain closed religions, especially like African traditional religions or ATR, there might already be set meanings ascribed to specific things or objects or Now again, I am not initiated into a closed religion that might use osteomancy like that. I really don't use it in my practice. I find like, this is gonna sound weird and this is only my personal opinion. I am in no way coming for anyone who uses bones for osteomancy. But for me, I just feel more called to give these animal spirits like a resting place in their afterlife rather than using them in order to like do things, right? In my care, I know that they will never know pain or fear or hunger here with me, and they're taken care of and they're nurtured, and that's really the spiritual benefit that I get from like hanging onto my bones, and kind of building almost like a relationship with them that I would with a deity, right? In that I am showing them respect, putting them in a place of exaltation, and often like I don't ask for anything from them. So I feel like my bone practice is incredibly boring in comparison to what a lot of people think it is. I generally use them for offerings and just kind of keep them well, right? As part of my hedge witchcraft, keeping their spirits, right? So in my pursuit of keeping all of my spirits very happy, I'm actually working to find kind of like a place for them in my house that's a little bit more prominent. I'm actually like running out of room, if I'm honest with you guys, and people keep messaging me like, oh, I have these bones, I think you would like them, can I send them to you? And I keep having to say no because I just like don't have the space. But once I get like a PO box and get this kind of cabinet, I will absolutely be happy to like take care of things that people feel like they can't. That's really where my focus lies. Now, if you are into osteomancy, that is awesome. I am so proud of you. Like, you do you. Or alternatively, if your practice is a little bit heavier in terms of your work with animal spirits and you'd like to start incorporating bones into your practice as kind of like a focus object or a way to bring that energy in, I super encourage you to do so. Learn some mythology, do some reading, and maybe consider starting with some of the native animals to your area, which I think can really vary based on your location, which is awesome. So go forth, do some research, get some creepy bones. I would love to hear about your bone collections if you have them or your practices with bones, but I hope this kind of furthers some of your ideas in terms of how you can work with bones in your practice. There are tons of ways, and again, I just really encourage you guys to be creative with your practices whenever possible. So yeah, with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!